Hey guys, welcome to today's webinar with the Taylor Hooten Foundation and NSF International and Certified for Sport. My name is Tavis Piatoli, sports dietitian with the Taylor Hooten Foundation. I want to welcome everyone. Really got a great webinar today. Over 1,500 people registered for today's webinar. Going to talk about dietary supplement safety as well as appearance and performance enhancing substances. So let's take some time. I'm going to do a quick poll. I want to get an idea of where first of all, just kind of the average age of our listeners and followers. And then also, I want to get an idea of where you're from. So use the chat room throughout this process. Let us know who you are, where you're from. But also, this is going to be the place for you to post your questions. I'm going to moderate the webinar throughout this. At the end, we'll answer questions for both Brian and Brian. Both of our speakers today are Brian Jordan and Brian Parker. I'll introduce them shortly and give you a quick bio. But if you want to let us know who you are and where you're from, we'd love to kind of learn a little bit more about the audience and who's in the room today. You will also get a copy of this webinar within, I think it's 12 hours. You will get an inbox in your inbox. If you miss something or if you know somebody who is registered, you will get a replay of the webinar. So I see Mark from Dallas and Stacy from Ormond Beach, Raul from Las Cruces, New Mexico. We have Stelios from Greece. Welcome. Thank you. A lot of followers from all over West Virginia. I see Tyler from Canada and Danielle from Arizona, Kayla from State College in Pennsylvania. Awesome. Good. Really worldwide crowd. A lot of great information that's going to be shared today. And let's kind of move forward and introduce today's speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Brian Jordan from NSF. Brian has nearly 20 years of professional experience as a strength and conditioning coach and coordinator for collegiate, major, and minor league baseball athletes, helping them maximize their performance through synergized programs comprised of biomechanics, recovery, and strength training. Mr. Jordan joined NSF in 2016 and works with professional and amateur sports organizations as an educator and public speaker on dietary supplements for NSF's Certified for Sport certification program. Prior to joining NSF, he worked with Major League Baseball's Colorado Rockies and Detroit Tigers teams and developed personalized training content for Bridge Tracker app used by coaches to design customized workouts for athletes around the world. He's nationally certified strength and conditioning specialist through the National Strength and Conditioning Association, receiving his accreditation in 1998. In 2010, he earned the title of Registered Strength and Conditioning Coach with distinction, certifying that he has more than 10 years of experience as a full-time strength and conditioning coach. And then our second speaker will be Brian Parker from the Taylor Hooten Foundation. He is a member of the most sought-out foundation in North America on the subject of appearance and performance-enhancing substances by our youth. After studying sports and event management at Elon University, Brian spent the last 9 years as the Director of Education for the Taylor Hooten Foundation, which was founded in 2004, the year following the loss of the Hooten family's youngest son, Taylor, as a result of using anabolic steroids. Since joining the organization full-time, he's traveled North America, speaking directly to hundreds of thousands of people. And during his multimedia presentations, he uses the story of Taylor's personal tragedy to focus attention on this serious topic. Brian then puts a spotlight on these subjects, raising awareness about the widespread use of steroids by our nation's youth. So thank you guys for being here today with us. Mr. Jordan, I'd like to turn it over to you and have you start with your presentation on supplement safety.
Thank you, Tavis. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to discuss dietary supplement safety. I want to begin first by thanking the Taylor Hooten Foundation for all that they do to inform and educate parents, coaches, and athletes the dangers associated with performance-enhancing substances. They do a wonderful job and a great service to all those families out there. So today I'm going to talk about dietary supplements. We're going to do a brief overview of regulations, the manufacturing risks and process. I'm going to cover some trends in dietary supplements that you should be aware of. And then I'm going to cover the NSF Certified for Sport certification program and how you can reduce risk when taking dietary supplements. So to begin, regulations, for those who may not know, the FDA regulates dietary supplements. Now, there's a few beliefs out there that it's not regulated and could be argued that not regulated in a robust fashion, but dietary supplements are regulated by the FDA. In 1994, the DSHEA Act came into law, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. So, kind of a brief summary of what that is. With dietary supplements being a subset of food, the regulations put forth by the DSHEA Act, puts dietary supplements in a post-market regulation fashion. So what that means is that dietary supplements can be sold out in the marketplace. There isn't any pre-market approval by the FDA. There's no safety evaluation by the FDA. It's a post-market evaluation. So with that being said, dietary supplements are assumed to meet the safety requirements put forth by the FDA. And only if there's some adverse events or some kind of issues with dietary supplements does that set forth the FDA's ability to either pull products off the market or to issue a recall and things like that. So there is no registration, there is no pre-market approval for dietary supplements before you see it out in the marketplace, which many people may not understand. The FDA and FTC are not as well funded when it comes to regulation. So just a little insight there. The FTC regulates more of the marketing side of things. The FDA will, audit facilities and also be able to, evaluate finished products and have recalls. So there are, 10,000 to 20,000 facilities registered globally. So these facilities are food facilities, dietary supplement facilities. They have to register with the FDA. There are 10 to 20,000 facilities globally. About half of those are international, half of those are domestic. So there's a lot of facilities that are out there. Of those facilities, only 400 to 500 audits are conducted by the FDA annually, which means they are only going into a small portion of these facilities to evaluate their manufacturing practices and whether they're doing what they should be doing in the manufacturing process. So there are also an estimated now of 80,000+ products out there in the marketplace. There is no set number or known number because there is no registration of these products with the FDA. So it's an estimation of how many products are out there, but it's a $40 billion+ industry that and over 100 million people use dietary supplements daily. Manufacturing. Just a brief overview of manufacturing. As I said just previously, that the manufacturing facilities are to be registered with the FDA. So if you're a food facility or dietary supplement manufacturing facility, contract facility, they are all required to register with the FDA. They are also required to meet the current GMP requirements, which came into law in 2007. And what those requirements are basically are the outline of how facilities should have a system in place to manufacture products. And so some of those things are, establish specifics of identity, batch production records, and written procedures are some of the requirements under the CGMP. And some of those, and those are the three that are the most misused in the facilities. They are found to be the least compliant in the infractions in these facilities. So what are some of the risks associated with these non-compliances? Raw material adulteration. So if they're not testing the raw materials that are coming into their facility, there's some risk that there is intentional adulteration, meaning there's substances put into raw materials to make them work better or to find cheaper substitutions. There's also the cross-contamination issue that can exist in a manufacturing facility. So if a manufacturing facility has other substances there, whether it be drugs, whether they be other ingredients, if they're not abiding by good manufacturing practices, there is a risk of cross-contamination and therefore affecting the finished product quality and safety. And then once that is also the finished product inconsistencies, as I just said there, a lot of that comes from not testing the products when they're completed, or there is, batch records, there's not master manufacturing records, the documentation protocols are not followed, therefore the finished products are inconsistent, whether that be the amounts of ingredients that are in there or the potential of contaminants. So just to give you a little visual to what the manufacturing process can look like. So on the left, you see a manufacturing facility. It's a warehouse storage of raw materials and components into finished products. On the right, you see a non-compliant warehouse storage facility. Obviously, you can see the risk of contaminants and other things that could be at risk in a finished product. On the left, you see a GMP compliant reactor in the facility, and then on the right, you see a non-compliant reactor. Obviously, sanitation is a major component of the GMP facility requirements, as well as some other safety issues that would be associated with a non-compliant reactor in that situation. Now, shifting gears to trends, getting into the meat of it is there's a lot of trends in dietary supplements, as you all may know. And all of these shouldn't be of a huge surprise, but I want to dig into them just a little bit today. So COVID-19 obviously has been a hot topic, to say the least, in the existence of a pandemic. But in the world of dietary supplements, there has been, in manufacturing, there has been over half the FDA warning letters related to COVID claims. So obviously, industry, some of the bad players in the industry are out there making claims that it cures or helps mitigate, the side effects of COVID or the existence of COVID. So that is a major point of emphasis right now to curb those claims by the FDA and FTC. CBD, no surprise there, that it is a huge trend and a hot topic. But what people may not completely understand is that CBD is only approved in as an anti-seizure drug. So it has been approved for childhood epilepsy and anti-seizure medicine, but it has not been approved for anything in food, dietary supplements, cosmetics, OTC. There's been no monographs or anything that has been approved by the FDA for use in there. So because it's a drug, that prevents it from being a legal dietary ingredient. Therefore, all the products that you see out in the marketplace, for the most part, that are saying CBD and our CBD products are not legal products out there. For the most part, it's likely that they're not, if you really look at it, because of the stance the FDA has taken with CBD and what the regulations are. Pre-workouts and weight loss products continue to be, for the past 20 years, an area that has, stimulants, has amphetamines. Still, there's DMAA and DMHA, which is 2-aminoisoheptane. Those are stimulants that are being put into these products. Some of them are on the labels. Some of them are just being found in these products. Many of these products, they're putting them in these products for the energy effects, the effect that you get from those stimulants. And they are, in most cases, these drugs are unapproved drugs. They have a poor safety record. There's a lot of issues with a lot of these things that are being, put in some of these products. Muscle building products. There's, a surge of SARMs out there now, which are selective androgen receptor modulators. And those are, MK2866 and andrine. And there's also a 5-alpha hydroxylaxogen, which is another ingredient that's being put into these products for steroid use, similar steroid use, muscle building. But these, once again, are unapproved drugs. They've haven't gone through or passed clinical studies, and they're being put in dietary supplements. And because they're drugs, they're also not legal dietary ingredients. So there's a huge issue of it being not just in these products, but also some of them are bold, as you can see on the right here, as to putting it on the labels. Many of them may not be putting on the labels, but can be found and have been found in these products. Here's another example. This is of a pre-workout. As you can see on the front, DMHA, which is 2-aminoisoheptane, and methyltyramine, which are both on the FDA's advisory list of ingredients that are not legal dietary ingredients, right here on the label of this product. Here's another, pre-workout product, Black Magic. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner, it says DMHA. And then what really is interesting in what place that you have to be aware of is you see that this is the same labels for the same product, but there are different sites and different websites and are being marketed differently. One is a nutrition facts panel. One is a supplement facts panel. As you can see, the ingredients are basically the same. The only difference is the norepinephrine, the isopropyl norepinephrine on the left is a different ingredient than what's on the right. But nonetheless, there's illegal dietary ingredients in there, which are stimulants that they use to make these products give the effect that they're looking for. And many of these obviously have high levels of caffeine as well. But with the labels, you can see these illegal ingredients. Okay, the NSF Certified for Sport certification program. I want to dig into who is NSF International. For those who may not know, NSF is an independent, accredited, non-governmental organization whose mission is to protect and improve human health. So NSF was started out of the University of Michigan as a public health and safety organization. We improve and are living the mission by leading development of public health and safety standards as a standard writing body. And we test and certify products and systems to those standards. Many of those products and standards are out there in the marketplace. You see the blue dot on food equipment, blenders to water filters. There's anything that really has to do with public health and safety and consumer goods. NSF does verify a lot of those to the standards that are written. So the Certified for Sport certification program is independent third-party certification of dietary supplements, functional foods, and beverages. And so that this program has been built off of the NSF ANSI 173 standard, which is the only dietary supplement standard that was written back in 2003. And that standard was written to have a standard of quality and safety when it comes to dietary supplements. The Certified for Sport certification program, obviously helps elite coaches, helps athletes and coaches, healthcare practitioners make decisions and avoid potentially harmful ingredients and athletic banned substances when choosing supplements. As you heard earlier, me giving some examples of the products that are out there and those banned substances. The Certified for Sport program helps mitigate those risks, and I will explain how that process is here shortly. Trusted by the world of sport. Really, the Certified for Sport certification is the only independent third-party certification recognized by USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Agency, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, Canadian Football League, and the Canadian Center for Ethics in Sport. Many other organizations and leagues, like the NFL, NBA, PGA, Ironman, NASCAR, anti-doping organization in INADO, and obviously the Taylor Hooten Foundation, utilize the Certified for Sport program to mitigate the risks of contaminated dietary supplements. Some highlights of the program, of the Certified for Sport program. In the past 5 years, NSF has added 80 banned substances to the testing list. We are now at 280 banned substances and will continue to do so as these substances like SARMs and others that exist and pop up in the marketplace. We will develop methods to test for those and add them to the banned substance testing. There's over 1,000 Certified for Sport certified products and over 100 brands currently in the program as that continues to grow. There was a consensus statement that came out last year that is the essential features of a third-party certification program for dietary supplements. That was in the ACSM journal that kind of outlines good practices, I guess, recognized features of third-party certification. NSF is the only one out there that meets all those essential features outlined in that consensus statement. ISO accreditations. So NSF is ISO accredited 17025 and 17065. And really briefly, what that means is the 17205 means that NSF meets all the laboratory requirements and laid out in the ISO standard, and which is accredited. And also the 17065 also is a quality systems accreditation for certification bodies. So you have to meet certain, whether it be employees, job descriptions, SOPs, everything. You have to meet those to hold that accreditation. And then global public health and safety organization, NSF has been for over 75 years. So the steps of certification, I'll briefly go over these. They are there's 4 components of it. It's the GMP audit, the toxicological review, contents tested of the products, and then the banned substance testing. So the GMP audit, NSF audits these facilities twice a year to make sure that they're abiding by the 21 CFR 111, 21 CFR 117 for functional foods. And so of those requirements, basically some of these things are, physical grounds inspections, equipment inspections, SOPs, quality systems, training records, and master manufacturing records. So NSF goes in there, makes sure that these are compliant, that they're meeting these complying to these requirements. And then, an audit report is issued. If there's any corrective actions, those are submitted and completed. And then if they pass the audit, then they are listed on the website. And then they are eligible for product certification, which undergoes a toxicological review, which is the toxicologist at NSF will review the formulation, the C of A's, batch records. We'll do a label review to make sure that they are legal dietary ingredients, as well as verifying, safe use levels and such. Some of the things that also go into the review, we'll be looking at, warning letters, FDA warning letters, if there's any products that are, have a history of recalls and those sort of things. The third component is the testing of the product. So it's based off of the ANSI NSF 173 standard, and the product is then tested for heavy metals, pesticides, contaminants, and then also the label is verified to make sure to meet what's inside, which obviously protein, calories, things like that are tested for to verify that they are actually what they're claiming to be. And then the last step is the ABS testing, the athletic banned substance testing. As I said previously, there are currently 280 substances that we are now testing for that are prohibited in sport. And these are based off of the WADA, MLB, and NFL prohibited substances lists. And once all 4 of those components have been satisfied and passed, then a product is certified. When a product is certified, it will be listed on the Certified for Sport app, which has, it can be downloaded, has over 30,000 downloads currently. And the cool features that we really have with the app that are worth noting, the barcode, you can scan the barcode on the finished products to see if it's a certified product. You can look at the labels within the app. You can share products that you're interested in with others. You can also identify through the product types and goals, and then also product details. You'll see country of sale and the lot numbers and contact information that are listed. Also, the products are listed on the Certified for Sport website. And so you can go to the nsfsport.com website, and it is the same function and same as the app. It's just on a website form, and it also has a bit more information. There's more videos and white papers that are also on the website, and FAQs and things like that that are housed at the website. We also have educational materials, a lot of educational materials to describe the app function, the description of the Certified for Sport program, infographics we have as well. And then we're adding more languages. We do have Spanish and English. We're going to add more languages as we move forward. But those are available to be able to educate athletes, and others on the program. So how can you reduce the risk? As I begin to wrap up here, I really want to identify how you can reduce your risk. First of all, anyone that is interested in taking dietary supplements, I would say that the best advice that can be given is to address any gaps that you have, but try to address those with food first. But if there is some gaps that you feel, whether it's because of travel, whether it's because of the demands of sport, access to food, things like that are real issues, that you consult with a registered dietitian, a licensed health practitioner that can give you the proper guidance and really dig into how best to navigate. Also, looking for red flags. Looking at the label details, those are all things that, as you saw with examples previously, can be very important. And you can see that ingredients are possibly illegal ingredients. There are plenty of those out there. Also, third-party sales. A lot of these products are being sold on third-party websites, not even their own websites, and so that is a potential red flag. Not to say that all brands and all products that are on these third-party websites for sale are bad, but there are some out there that are kind of navigating the regulatory industry by showing up on these third-party websites and selling their products without real ease of finding out who is manufacturing these products and who's selling these products. So it's a bit of a shady area. Utilize trustworthy resources. Those really are, USADA, their supplement 411 has a lot of information. They obviously provide a lot of information to elite athletes, youth athletes, really the world of sport and anti-doping. USADA is a beacon there that really has trustworthy resource. The FDA, Dietary Supplement Ingredient Advisory, you can look on the FDA website that will give you an idea of some of the high-risk ingredients or recalls and other things that you should be aware of as a consumer. And then the NIH, National Institute of Health, the Office of Dietary Supplements has a lot of information on dietary supplements, dietary supplement regulations, consumer information. There's a lot of information there. And then, how to reduce your risk. look for NSF Certified for Sport products. I'll show you kind of an infographic that allows you to navigate that a little better. Confirm that a product has the NSF Certified for Sport mark. You can scan a product in the store and see if it's a certified product. So that's an easy way to know that it's been independently verified, to not have contaminants, to not have banned substances, 280 banned substances, and to have a level of quality and safety that you should be looking for in things that you're consuming. Online, there's some ways to be able to do that. You look for the mark, but you can look on the website and you can look for listed lots and products that way, and you can contact the brands to purchase product. A lot of these have their own websites that identify the NSF Certified for Sport products, so it's becoming easier to navigate that way and order products that are NSF Certified for Sport. In conclusion, be aware. I guess the best advice is to be aware of the risks that are out there and all that goes into it, and then be able to educate athletes, families, friends on those risks, and also provide simple, realistic solutions. With travel, with demanding sports schedules, anything like that. There's real challenges that make dietary supplements appealing to a lot of people. So, the more that you can provide realistic solutions, then, there's a chance that, people will actually follow through with those. And then seek help and guidance when needed. If you need advice, you don't have information, there's a lot of resources out there. Don't be afraid to reach out to the experts that are out there and seek help. There's a lot of people who be willing to help out. And there's references. There's my contact information, and thank you.
Brian, thank you so much. Fantastic information. And again, if athletes are not taking NSF for Sport third-party tested products, they just run the risk. And no matter how many times we go into schools, high schools, colleges, and talk about this topic, they're still asking about other products. And what about this? It's like, no. Don't take the risk. It's not worth it. There's no supplement that's going to acutely change performance and get you the results that you're not doing with food. So, Brian, thanks so much. We will come back to you. There are several questions that we want to ask. I do want to turn it over to Brian Parker now from the Taylor Hooten Foundation, who will talk to us about appearance and performance-enhancing substances. So, Brian, it is all yours.
Thanks, Tavis, and thanks, Brian, for sharing your knowledge with us. It's great to have a partner like NSF, and every time I listen to you talk, I learn a couple of things, even after talking about supplements myself for over a decade now. So a lot of great resources there, and for you guys that have questions, we will certainly address all of those at the end. I want to spend a little bit of time with you guys before we do that to talk to you guys about appearance and performance-enhancing substances. I certainly understand that my topic is at the core a little bit different than what Brian just discussed, but there is an overarching theme, and that theme is the fact that the majority of us out there have physical goals that we want to achieve. And while many of us are doing it the right way, there are a growing number of people that are looking for shortcuts, often looking for an answer in a powder, pill, bar, or a shake. And we have a growing number of people that are looking for an answer in things such as anabolic steroids. So I want to spend about 20 minutes with you guys discussing the real world of anabolic steroids, what they actually are and where they're coming from and who's getting involved, and ultimately getting some education in your hands so you can have these conversations with the people in your life, and ultimately we can, everyone together, achieve our goals the right way. That's the end goal of what we're going to discuss through my part of the webinar. To give you guys a little bit of background on who we are as a foundation and why we exist, I need to start with a quick story. As I told you guys, I am with the Taylor Hooten Foundation. That is certainly not a random name. We are called that for a very good reason. It is in remembrance of Taylor Hooten, the young person that is on the screen in front of you. So I want to briefly tell you his story, which will understand why it is that I'm here talking with you guys today. Best way I can tell you his story is to take you back to 2003. Around that time, the kid that you're looking at on your screen is a 16-year-old high school athlete. As you guys can also tell, his sport of choice was baseball, and one of the favorite things he liked to do in his life was baseball. Had very high aspirations for his baseball career. Now, at the time that I'm taking you guys back to, Taylor is a 16-year-old high school player on his JV team with aspirations of making the varsity squad. So the core of Taylor's story and how he first got involved with anabolic steroids was he sat down with his coach one day saying that, Coach, I want to make the varsity team. I want to get better at what I do. I want to make the squad. How do I do it? Now, this 16-year-old kid who was about 6 feet, 180, 190 pounds, was told to, number one, get bigger, put on as much weight as he could, and number two, get stronger. If he would do those two things, it would greatly improve his chances. Now, at that time, Taylor didn't have a lot of resources to turn to. He started talking with his friends and his teammates, and the sad reality was about half of the guys he was playing baseball with were already using anabolic steroids. It did not take him long to do the same thing. He was told where to buy this stuff and how to use it. He dove in head first and used this stuff very heavily for about 6 months. He dealt with a lot of the physical side effects we will talk about later, but for him, it really started to build psychologically and mentally to the point where he wanted to quit. It was not worth it anymore. So Taylor sat down with mom and dad one day, asked for help, was taken to go see a doctor. The unfortunate thing was the doctor had probably not had a webinar like this, had no real education on the topic, told Taylor to quit everything cold turkey, which is the worst thing you can tell someone involved with these drugs. That sent Taylor straight into a withdrawal, which led straight to a depression. It was about 6 weeks from the day that he quit. He was in his house one day. He went up into his bedroom. He grabbed a couple belts and he took his own life. So if you're wondering why I'm spending some time with you guys today and why the Taylor Hooten Foundation exists as a whole, it is because we lost somebody because of this stuff every single day since. We've been on a mission to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody that we talk to on a daily basis. The other thing that happened when all of this went down with Taylor is that we started to look beyond our own situation. And we realized that, you know what, this wasn't just a Taylor problem. We had a couple million kids involved with this stuff. And at the time, there was nobody talking about it. So we started this foundation, number one, to always remember Taylor, but number two, to fill that gap in education that didn't exist at the time all of this happened, to give people the education that Taylor didn't have when he went through this. So the end goal of everything we're doing with you guys today is education at the very end of the day. So let's do that. Let's have that education. My focus for you guys today is going to mainly be on anabolic steroids. There are certainly other appearance and performance enhancing substances that are out there on the market. And if you guys have questions about them, please send them in the chat. I want to mainly focus on anabolic steroids as that's likely the most well-known substance that comes to mind when you think of this category. What I want to do with anabolic steroids is take you guys on a bit of a journey. I don't want to just discuss the side effects and what can happen if you get involved. I want to give you guys the entire background on what this stuff is and where's it coming from and who's getting involved for what reasons. So let's start with what steroids are. I am going to assume that most people on this call have a pretty basic understanding of what anabolic steroids are. In fact, most people that I speak with know a couple of different things. Number one, they know that these are drugs, which is correct. Number two, they know that these are designed to make you bigger, faster, stronger. That is also correct. Incredibly powerful substances that we're talking about. If we want to take that a step further and truly understand what steroids are and how they work, the best way I can do that for you guys and the simplest way I can do that is to give you a very easy comparison. When you hear that word steroids, here's what I want you to relate that to. Steroids equals testosterone. At the end of the day, these drugs are designed to do the same exact thing that testosterone does. So for the students in your life, for the young people in your life, that is a very easy way to define what steroids are, because most of our young people go through health class. They know what testosterone is. They know that it develops them, right? They know that even if they never work out, you're going to get taller and bigger and grow muscles. That's because of testosterone. You guys are listening to a deep voice right now because of testosterone. We all grow hair in funny places because of testosterone, right? We have this core knowledge that is there that will help us understand what these drugs are and what they are designed to do. That's the simplest way I can kind of break down what anabolic steroids are at the end of the day. Now, a couple other things with steroids I want to dive into, a couple other misconceptions about this real world of steroids that we live in. Number one is where they're coming from. I will say that when I bring up anabolic steroids to most people, their minds typically go in one of two directions. A lot of people will start to think about professional athletes, what those guys are taking, designer, expensive grade anabolic steroids. Or a lot of our minds will go to a doctor's office or pharmaceutical grade steroid. To be honest with you guys, I've been doing these talks for a decade. I have never talked about what the pro athletes take. I don't really even talk about what's coming out of a doctor's office, because what most of our young people are taking today start on the underground market, the street market, the black market, whatever you want to call it. This is where most people's steroids are acquired, because this is what's become accessible. I want to start by breaking down this process. Okay, so if you were to come across the majority of our steroids in our country right now, the fact is they likely didn't start here. We see most steroids being produced overseas. I personally see a lot of them being imported from China. And so here's the process. A group of people will to get together in a country like China and mix together powders that essentially, as we discussed, mimic testosterone. Okay? So they ship these powders all over the world. Now, obviously, a large chunk of it will end up here in the United States. Now, let's say I'm a drug dealer. I have just been sent a large shipment of anabolic steroid powder. It's the best way I can say that. I now have to find a way to make this stuff usable, to make this stuff injectable. And to be honest with you guys, the thing that works best for doing that is any kind of oil-like substance. But as a drug dealer, I am trying to make the most money that I can. So what we typically see is these dealers will use anything from cooking oil to baby oil to motor oil. As you can see on your screen, there's an example of a dealer we saw a few years ago using horse urine to mix up anabolic steroids. Now, if you've ever felt horse urine, I hope you haven't. One thing I know about it, it is a very thick and oily substance. So it works well for this kind of drug. And here's the problem. If I found that dealer that was selling these horse urine anabolic steroids and I set it down in front of you guys on your screen on a slide, and then I went out and I got a pharmaceutical grade steroid and I also set it down on a screen in front of you guys, nobody on this webinar would be able to tell me which one was which. They are going to look exactly the same. These are smart people that we are dealing with. They will put a fancy label on it. It will look like what the pro athletes take. At the end of the day, it is likely a black market underground street steroid, because that is just, to put it simply, what's easy to find. I have a few pictures to kind of back up that process. So this is overseas where those raw materials are being made, where the powder's being mixed up. As you guys can see, this is not a lab. This is not a sanitary condition. This is literally a person's garage. But they mix up in those tubs. They throw it through this filtration system. I have a close-up of that, right? So there's no quality control on any of this stuff that we're talking about. But it runs through there. It gets put in their state-of-the-art storage facility while it's waiting to get shipped over the world. And then when it goes out, it typically goes to places like this. These are actual DEA drug bust pictures, right? Where they're taking that oil, they're taking that powder, they're mixing it up together in that beautiful bathtub. It's getting quite dirty along the way. But at the end of the day, it's mixed up, put in a vial like that in the top right, and nobody knows the difference. This is the real world of how a lot of our steroids were made. And when our young people come across this stuff, this is typically what they are finding. Now, if you're sitting there wondering how they're finding it, look, a lot of young people are still finding this stuff through dealers at gyms. That's still an issue. But as technology grows, all right, that is becoming the main source for a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. I've always said this about the internet. It is a wonderful thing sometimes. It is oftentimes a horrible thing. In the world of drugs, in the world of anabolic steroids, the internet has basically turned into a supermarket. In fact, I would invite you guys to do this. When we are done with this webinar today, pull up Google or pull up a search engine and type in buy steroids online, right? Unless you guys are on a work computer and they're looking at what you're Googling. I don't want to get you in trouble, okay? But if you feel comfortable doing this, type that in, click on some of the websites that you guys will see pop up. More than likely, they will look like this. It will be incredibly obvious what they're selling, but if you type in your credit card information, they are going to ship this stuff straight to your house in an unmarked cardboard box. We are now seeing social media sites, Instagram, Facebook advertisements, YouTube videos that are selling these drugs. At the end of the day, this is how a lot of our young people are getting this stuff. So I always tell people this: you may not think you have a steroid problem in your school or in your community, or you don't live in a big town, you don't see the stuff being sold on the streets. If you have money and a mailbox, you can get anything that we're talking about. That is why this stuff continues to get used more and more every single day. Now, who are the customers of these products? This is another large misconception, right? Because another thing that happens when I say the term steroids is most people think, well, that's an athlete problem. Those are people that want to perform better. Or a lot of people assume this is a male problem. These are guys that just want to look big and strong. To tell you guys the truth, males use this, females use this, athletes use this, non-athletes use this. This is being used by every single type of demographic that are out there. So it's important that we educate every single person that we come across. Here's why this is used by everybody: because we face universal pressures. Here's what I mean. I will always have a large group of steroid users that are doing it for performance-based reasons, that are athletes, that want to get better, that want to make a team, that want a scholarship. I think those pressures will always exist because they are universal in the world of sports. But the other universal pressure that we feel, especially as young people, are body image pressures. We are getting told every single day what we are supposed to look like, how much we are supposed to weigh. I mean, look at social media, look at magazines, look at TV. We are seeing these images all the time. Our young people are seeing that and feeling, you know what? That's what I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm supposed to look like. And so I have a large majority of steroid users that could care less about performance. They just want to look a certain way. That is also why you're looking at a stat on your screen that young females, especially high school females, is the fastest growing user group of these drugs in the whole country. Because you could argue that females face even more body image pressure than males do. And so these are powerful, effective drugs. As I said before, they can change what you look like. So I have lots of females getting involved with stuff simply because they feel that pressure. This is why at the end of the day, we have to educate everyone that we come across. We cannot just put this into an athletic box. It is much bigger than that. All of this stuff that we're talking about equates to a very large problem, a problem that most people don't realize how big it has become. This slide will give you some numbers on what we are seeing as far as anabolic steroid users, okay? I will sum it up. Whenever I go to a school, it is about 1 out of every 14 students that I'm looking at that have tried anabolic steroids. I have 1 or 2 in every class. I have 1 or 2 at every team. We are starting at the age of 15. We have to get this education to everybody, and we have to do it early. That is how we lead to preventing a lot of the numbers that we see continuing to grow. Now, last part of my anabolic steroids talk is why I try to get people to avoid this stuff. I didn't just start with this. I wanted to give you guys some background on the real world of anabolic steroids. But at the end of the day, we need to know reasons and deterrents to avoid this kind of stuff. I have always said there are 3 main deterrents in the world of anabolic steroids, but yet we seem to focus on one. The first one on your screen is the one that most people know. It's cheating. If you are an athlete, if you use anabolic steroids, of course, you are cheating. You are changing the fundamental level of combination. I fully believe that. If I'm being honest, I get a little bit bothered that the conversation tends to stop there, because there are 2 other big things at play that often don't get discussed. Number 1, these are illegal drugs. If you are not sick, if you do not have a prescription, you cannot be using this stuff. It is against the law, but we rarely see people get in trouble for this stuff. And then number 2, and most importantly, these are incredibly dangerous drugs, incredibly powerful drugs. They will flat out hurt somebody that's using this stuff. So when someone comes to me and they say, Brian, what do you think about this person that got caught or that person that gets caught? My response is always this: I am worried about them. This is hurting them, and I know that. This is a health issue at the end of the day. This is not solely a cheating issue. Again, this is why we have to educate everybody for that main reason. So my last few slides are going to focus on that health issue. I'm going to tell you guys some very common side effects of anabolic steroids for you guys, depending on your role. These can also be warning signs that you guys can look out for. If you see a lot of this stuff happening, you may have an issue at play. Now, the first one is something obviously you will not be able to see, but I would say is the most researched side effect in the world of anabolic steroids, and that's what's going on cardiovascularly, particularly with your heart. All right. This is also very easy to explain to your students. If you are taking a drug that makes all of your muscles bigger and stronger on the outside, we cannot be naive enough to think that that doesn't happen on the inside as well. And the most important muscle in your body is your heart. You just simply cannot live without it. If your muscle gets larger, that is a very definition of heart disease. Couple pictures to prove my point. Right there on your screen to your left is a picture of a normal adult heart, and on your right, that is a steroid user heart. You can see the growth that I'm alluding to. One more picture, which I think is a little bit better, is a cross-section picture. On your left, that is a normal heart. On your right, that is a cross-section of a steroid user heart. You can see how thick that muscle becomes. I promise you, it's going to get very difficult to pump blood in and out of that thing. And the numbers will tell you you are about 12 times more likely to have a heart attack if you use anabolic steroids at the end of the day. More than likely, you will never see it coming. It might take 5, 10, 12 years before it hits you, but this is the most common and the most researched side effect that is out there if you use this stuff. Now, in regards to stuff that you guys can see, there's a lot of very common, typical anabolic steroid side effects that we can discuss very quickly. You will often see oily skin, a lot of acne, not just on your face, your back, chest, shoulders, all over the place. That is common. You'll deal with a lot of changes in hair pattern. You might lose hair on top of your head. You might grow body and facial hair. That's very common. Bad breath tends to come on very quickly and lingers around for a while. You may notice that coming on. These are probably your short-term side effects that can come on within a few months of use. The long-term side effects is where we start to get truly serious. And the best way I can do that is to split it up into males and females, because depending on who you are, they will start to hit you very differently. All right. I'll start with males. Right. Male side effects that you guys are seeing on your screen are the most common ones. We discussed balding. That's very common. Your testicles are more than likely going to shrink. Again, very easy to understand. Your testicles produce testosterone. If you feed your body testosterone, which is, as we discussed, anabolic steroids, your brain, your body will see that and it will say, okay, look, if you're going to do that for me, I'm going to stop, right? You're doing all the hard work. I'm going to shut off production, right? That is what makes your testicles shrink. That leads to a lot of long-term problems that can be irreversible depending on how long you've used it. That's a very common side effect for males. And the other very common side effect, which I have seen become a very good deterrent for males, is that if you use this for a long term, you're likely going to develop breast tissue. If you need to prove it to a student, the best way I can tell you to do it is to find a bodybuilding magazine and go to the back, right? The magazines with the big veiny guys on the front. Go to the back where the ads are. You'll see ads for breast reduction surgery for males. That's for steroid users that have to have this done. Again, pretty common for long-term use. Now, for females, it's a very different situation. The best way I can sum it up is the longer a female uses these substances, the more masculine characteristics they will start to develop. Females do not have the amount of testosterone that males do. So if you ramp that up, yes, they will also likely get bald. They will likely grow body and facial hair. Their voice will get deep within a few months. That will be quick and that will be permanent. These are very common side effects for long-term female use that we need to be aware of. And regardless of the gender, regardless of who's involved with this stuff, obviously one of the most important side effects is psychological, right? At the end of the day, these drugs are hormones. Hormones make us feel a certain way. If you load your body up with hormones, I don't know how exactly you will feel, but you will feel different. You may feel mad and aggressive for no real reason. You might feel sad and depressed for no real reason. You might fluctuate between the two. but they will affect how you feel. We know that firsthand because we dealt with this with Taylor directly. Very common side effect when we're talking about this stuff. So let's wrap this up. I have discussed a lot of issues in the world of anabolic steroids. I don't like to discuss issues without a solution. The irony of this webinar is the solution to everything that we just discussed is actually what we just did: education. So 85% of people that I've talked to have never heard this stuff. I'll be honest, I would have paid a lot of money for a coach or a parent or a teacher or somebody to sit me down and talk about this. It typically doesn't happen. It gets ignored in the world of substance use education. We have to change that. So that is your homework, right? Sounds simple. It may not feel that way, but what I would love for you guys to do is go back to your family, to your community, to your school, and have these conversations. Sit down with your students and discuss this stuff, all right? At the end of the day, what I want you telling them is that you can achieve your goals the right way. If they do not hear that, they will not believe it. That simple conversation can make a huge difference, I promise. So whenever you feel that moment is right, that's what I'm going to ask you guys to do moving forward. Because as I'm alluding to, not only do I want to educate our young people, I want to inspire them. The majority of people are achieving their goals the right way. I want to celebrate that. I want that inspiration to exist. So we started a campaign called the All Me League. We went out and we got about 40, 45 different professional athletes. We have a lot of Major League Baseball players, but we have Olympians, BMX riders, cyclists. There's a lot of people that have stepped up as positive role models and said, you know what? We achieved our goals the right way. You can do the same thing. So instead of us as a society talking about the people that cheat and get caught, let's celebrate these people and provide our young people with inspiration to do the same exact thing. So if you guys want to learn more about that campaign, you guys can go to allmeleague.com. All of your students can take the pledge to live and compete PED free, and we can have that positive conversation at the end of the day. If you guys need a couple more resources, I'm going to leave you with a couple. Number one is we have started an All Me podcast. We started it this year. I know everyone is doing podcasts, but we felt that there was a lot more content that we had that we wanted to share. So we put this together, and we have had a lot of great guests. We had just released an episode about creatine. We have done episodes on sleep. We've done SARMs. We've done energy drinks. We've had pro athletes. We have a ton of really useful information in this podcast that can apply to your everyday lives that I hope you guys will check out. There's a website on the screen, or if you guys use Apple, iTunes, whatever you use, just search Taylor Hooten. You will find that podcast. We release an episode every 2 weeks. Hopefully you guys will check that out. And if you want to learn more about a foundation, our website is right there on the screen. If you guys want to book a virtual presentation for your school or your family or your group, we do that every single day. We would love to hear from you guys. Please reach out. There's all our information. So even though I'm done with you guys, this slide is my way of saying we can be friends forever. All right? This doesn't have to end right now. In regards to content, though, that is all I got for you guys. I'm going to turn this over to Tavis so we can get you guys out of here and get you guys some questions. At the end of the day, thank you guys so much for spending some time with us. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Well, instead of Mike and Mike in the morning, we have Brian and Brian in the afternoon. So great job to both of you guys. We do have several questions I want to go through, and we'll start with some of these questions that are for Brian Jordan from NSF. Mark has a question, or he just stated, CBD has THC in it and can cause a positive drug test. Do we see that when it comes to CBD today, Brian, that it has THC, or are there some without it?
Yeah, so a lot of these products are hemp-derived products. So with the passing of the Farm Bill, they descheduled hemp as is not a controlled substance. So with that being said, THC is still a controlled substance, but it is in hemp at a 0.03 or less threshold. So yes, with these CBD products and hemp-derived products, there is a risk of having higher levels of THC, even though legally it's supposed to be at the 0.03 or less per dry weight. There is a lot of risk because once again, if there's an independent testing of these, or if the labs are not testing for the levels of THC, or there's a lot of variables there that can create high levels of THC in these products that could cause a drug test failure, whether it be for an athlete, whether it be for a machine operator, a driver, or anything like that that would be tested for THC.
Great. A couple of really good questions on supplements coming up. Can you comment on how supplements can contain either a nutrition facts label versus a dietary supplement label?
Yeah, that's the gray world we live in, with the regulations of dietary supplements and foods. Those, depending on your claims and what your ingredients are, whether they're GRAS generally recognized as safe, or if they're different ingredients, you can have either a nutrition facts panel or a supplements facts panel. So there isn't any, there's a balance back and forth. Some of the product manufacturers go back and forth, depending on what their, marketing goals are, what their claims are, will determine whether they use a supplement facts panel or a nutrition facts panel. And also, what ingredients they're using will determine whether they can use either. So it's a bit gray, and it's an area that is certainly, some companies go back and forth on with similar products or the same product.
Another great question on supplements that they said, I've seen supplements that can claim to be made in a GMP compliant factory, but does not have the NSF certification. Can you comment on the safety of this supplement?
I can say that for any facility that doesn't have an independent third-party verification of GMP, there's some really good players out there that do a lot of good things, but what we do know, there is risk when a business operates without any kind of external review and holds them accountable. Even NSF has held accountable by ANSI with holding accreditations and things like that. So to have an external review of what you're doing and making sure you're doing the things that are in the best interest of what you're producing and the consumers certainly helps the end product. So these facilities that don't, not to say that they're all bad, but it certainly does help look for quality when you see that they have gone through the process of having someone come in and review their facilities and are abiding by the regulations put forth by the FDA.
When a product gets NSF certified, how long does it take for the product to show on the website or app as NSF certified?
So the app and the website is updated every day. When these products become certified, they go to the certification records, and then once they are put on the website and app, they are certified at that time. So once it's a quick process. Once they pass certification, then they are listed on the website, and that is updated daily.
I'm sure you get this question a lot, and I think it's a good question just for people to understand, because they ask about other certifications. What is the difference between NSF and Informed Sport, and why is NSF the only one recognized by certain organizations?
Yeah, I do get that a bunch. The biggest thing is with NSF, we are generally recognized as the most robust, and we are recognized by a lot of anti-doping agencies and professional sports because of the robust nature of what we do. And so when I say robust, we do everything from checking the GMP facilities for the raw materials and everything that I described earlier, to the contents of the products, making sure that they meet label claims, that they also don't have heavy metals and pesticides, which can be in a lot of these dietary supplements. And then the finished goods, the final part of that is the banned substance testing. And we test for 280 banned substances that will continue to grow as the risks are out there. And so because of that, comprehensive nature and approach as a public health and safety organization and not a business necessarily, that NSF really is recognized as the gold standard out there with the anti-doping agencies and professional sports.
Excellent. And just, Brian Parker, one question for you. They want to know, how did you get the pictures of the street drug factory and drug bust?
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate over the years to build relationships with various law enforcement agencies, including the DEA, and those were the source of those photos. And so, yeah, that's what's scary. We talked a lot about the side effects of these drugs, which are going to be at play regardless of the source of the anabolic steroids. And then when you have situations like that, we've seen a lot of just different contamination get mixed in on top of that, including a lot of heavy metal use that kind of gets piled on top. So yeah, unfortunately, we've seen a variety of those kind of pictures, and while they may seem a little bit shocking, what's even more shocking is how many products are made like that. I'm sure Brian Jordan could tell you supplement stories of places like that he's seen a lot of production in. So yeah, it just kind of compiles the issue when we see that. But yeah, luckily, law enforcement relationships have kind of helped us source some of that.
Yeah, Brian Jordan, one question I have for you is just with so many young athletes walking into supplement stores or trying to buy stuff and really not knowing what they're buying, and we have so many uneducated people behind the counter selling things. We have research on that. What are the common products that you see that are testing positive for banned substances?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, there's always a shiny new object that's out there that's SARMs right now for the most part, but the weight loss products continue to be a problem. They put a lot of stimulants and amphetamines in these to make them work better. I'm assuming, and then also sexual enhancement products, things like that, have drugs in them. And then the bodybuilding, once again, they're trying to have an effect that people are looking for in these products, and the only way to achieve those typically are through drugs. And so those risky weight loss products, those thermogenic products, the sexual enhancement products, the massive weight gain, muscle building products are the ones that we've found most contaminated and have banned substances in them, or definitely not the products. It definitely doesn't have the ingredients listed on the label that are inside a lot of these.
Yeah, and I see a lot of pre-workouts. I see a lot of people taking pre-workouts today with various different stimulants, and a lot of times, there is some sort of banned substance, particularly synephrine or other illegal substances that are in there as well. One more question. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say yes. The pre-workouts, as I mentioned and showed earlier, the 2-amino-isoheptane, the DMAA, ephedra, all that stuff is still being used. And the sad part of it is, even when there's a recall, and I forgot to mention this, that when there's a recall, they're finding, there's studies out there, they've found that these products are existing 6 months, a year later, and a lot of times they're the same products, or they've been reformulated, and they still end up having different banned substances in them or illegal drugs and stuff like that. So even with the recall process, there's still risks of those products still being out in the marketplace after a recall. It's crazy.
Last question. If I take an NSF certified product and have a positive test for a banned substance, will the positive be turned over or overturned? I'm assuming if they take a product by NSF, they're not going to test positive, but I want to let you answer that question.
While there isn't 100% of anything, as we know, we do test for a lot of banned substances. We test for very low levels, but the industry, the sports drug testing, each professional sports, amateur sports have a different, different levels, different substances. Everything from NCAA to professional baseball to rugby to WADA. There's differences in the levels that they test for and the substances depending on the sport. So that is a very challenging situation for most athletes, because what could be banned in one area, it may not be banned in another area. So athletes really have to, and even the trainers and strength coaches, dietitians that work with these athletes really need to be aware of the drug testing, the anti-doping program, the banned substances, and those sort of things when working with these athletes, because there are some differences that people really need to be aware of.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, Brian and Brian. I appreciate the time today, and great job. A lot of great information. And again, if you did not get a chance to see this entire presentation, everyone who registered for this will get an email within 12 hours to watch the replay. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the people that signed up to watch today's webinar. I hope it was very beneficial, and we will see you soon. Y'all have a great day. Thanks, Brian and Brian.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.